Since the last episode that I talked about the Docklands, I have massively improved the fish production of Roma. So much so that I figured I had to do a little bit of beautification work and put a whole bunch of fishmonger ornaments. Anyway, let's get into today's video where we talk about engineers that totally don't even consume fish. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Anno 1800 Beginner's Guide series. Thank you all so very much for being here as always. Today we are going to be touching on the engineers, the beginning of engineers, why this chain is so important, and how to do your best to navigate through this. Because if you thought that the artisans were going to give you a problem, these guys are a whole different beast. That being said, it's not as difficult to wrap your head around as the artisan chain is, because with the artisans, in my opinion, they tend to throw you out there and say like, okay, you have to go to the new world, okay, you have to do this, you have to get this from the other island. The engineers are not particularly like that. They give you a lot more money, which is a good thing. The problem is that there are certain mechanics within the engineer track that you're gonna have to wrap your head around quickly in order to make sure that you can actually build your population limit a decent amount. So, before we do anything else, I wanted to mention that the last building that the actual artisans require for a rank up is the university. It's a very simple building. You just plop it down. You don't need to do anything else with it. If you have the Steampunk DLC pack, you also do have additional skin over here just to showcase it. This is what it looks like. Looks alright. Looks alright. But for our purposes, we're just going to keep to the basic, because that's what we're really doing here. So we have everything else that these guys require. We're sitting at a surplus of artisan workforce being plus 800. And now what we can do is find a suitable location to begin upgrading our artisans to engineers. And I think these two blocks, probably the best spots. They're in the very middle. They're kind of cool. So we'll do this one. Welcome to the age of science and wonder. This is, you want to pull a Nacho Libre reference in here? Like, I don't know why you have to keep judging me. Only because I believe in science. So, these are what your typical engineer buildings are going to be looking like. And obviously, you're going to get one of the engineers coming here and saluting you for your, you know, hey, guess what? We moved in here and all that stuff. They want to make themselves feel important. I didn't know how else to describe it. But we still have 560 additional artisans here. So, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade this block as well. So, now we're sitting at over 500 engineers. And that's pretty solid. So let's take a look at the engineer track to begin with. So the very first thing you'll see here is reinforced concrete. Reinforced concrete is another one of the core construction materials that you're going to want to work on. And essentially what this again revolves around is a steel surplus, which we have been doing, right? If it wasn't for, yeah, another DLC. It says I just want to pop its head out of nowhere. We'll talk about her later. And she doesn't want to go away. Thank you. And this dude doesn't want to go away. Fantastic. And expedition. Oh my god, leave me alone. So, this is why I mentioned early on that it's good to have a good steel industry going early on, because later in the game you are going to find that steel becomes even more important. That's why a lot of Anno 1800 players later on go ahead and make an industrial island, and that is something we're going to be doing in this particular Beginner's Guide series relatively soon, because we're reaching that point. But now, how about no? Oh, leave me alone. Thank you. I don't want to be dragged into a pointless war. Oh, we also declared war on her. That's fantastic. So she has some ships around here. Hopefully they won't be that terrible. So what we're essentially looking at over here is we're going to have to work on our limestone quarry. And we do have one available on Roma, of whom is right over in the back here. What we're going to do, first of all, is actually start this going, because it's going to take 30 seconds to actually produce some limestone out of this. So we're just going to go ahead and build it. Don't really worry about it. It's going to take workforce, so that's okay. We still have a decent chunk, and we do have a warehouse right over here, so we can just take it and put it in there. Not that big of a deal. We also have a fire. That's fantastic because there's an explosion. I turned off the announcer. I'm just not dealing with them. And can you imagine if all these NPCs were talking at the same time? I would have absolutely lost it, man. Completely lost it. So we're going to let that cook for a little bit. The next thing is electricity. This is where it starts to get complicated for your engineers, okay? Electricity essentially means power plants and use of oil transportation in order to actually electrify your services, your buildings, all that stuff. And pretty much the way that this is done is you have the oil refinery over here. Thank you. She's going to give me a gift. You have the oil refinery over here, and it does have a similar radius type that, like, the wort cutters and whatnot. So we have 4 oil deposits. Another way you can check is to just, you know, click on the oil spring right over here. But normally, you see that you can't put 1 over all these deposits. In this situation, we're going to have 2. So we're going to put 1 facing this direction, another one like facing this direction. And there's a reason why we're doing this. The next thing is that these things do have modules as well. So they are right here in the oil wells. We're going to put them right over the available oil springs. And we're going to do the same with this side. And pretty much these guys are going to work to extract oil from our natural oil springs. There will probably be an episode after this one fully going into the complexities of oil transportation, because it can get very complicated and it does make a lot of players scratch their heads and be like, what the heck is going on? I don't understand it. Pretty much what happens is you're going to be transporting this oil not via road, you're going to be doing it via train. And the train tracks are right here, or what the game calls railway. The railway delivers it to a small oil harbor. That is where the reinforced concrete comes into play. The small oil harbor needs to be built offshore, but seeing as how I've actually put a whole bunch of these fishmongers over here, I'm going to go ahead and delete them, because we're going to need the room. Also going to repair that just because. The small oil harbor is always placed like so. This is what the building is going to look like, and as you can see, there is a rail line coming from out of it already. This is obviously in the blueprint mode, so we can't actually build it, because we don't have the reinforced concrete yet. In order to gain more stockpiles of oil, we have an oil store. An oil store is very similar to that of a depot, except the depots do not actually store the oil for you. These will. This will store an additional 200 oil supply, because these things actually run pretty quickly. The problem is the actual length of time it takes to actually have them reach a specific location. That is what that's what we're going to focus on probably in the next episode. But an oil store pretty much looks like this. You can flip it around, make it look nice. I typically, whenever I put these down, I kind of like to make them look relatively even, going straight forward like this. So you have your oil store pretty much set up over here. And then the tracks are going to be difficult, especially like the layout that we've set up over here. So more than likely, if you're on an expert level difficulty, which again, if you're here, more than likely you're not, moving things are probably going to be a little bit difficult for you, but in our case, it should be relatively simple just to grab like these guys and put them over here, for example. And then we also have these ones that we can like stuff into this corner, right? Very nice and easy. We can leave our cannery right over there. That's fine. We can move this guy right over to here, and you'll see that we have a decent area to get through here now. The way to build the railways is very similar to how you would do any form of road construction. The problem is they can be a little bit wonky. And the reason for that is you can't build them right next to each other going through the same pathway. They can go through roads, but they have a tendency of glitching, and you don't really want to have that happen. So like as an example, if you were to build it like this across, right? And you were to get rid of that, sometimes the little section in the middle will stay, and it will actually cut through your actual paving, and it's not a fun time. Do note that if you actually have any trains running and you need to actually deliver, for example, something to a power plant that you've set up in the city, wait for it to deliver to the power plant, because if you make any changes to the railway when the train is on it, it will despawn the train and it will essentially start from the beginning. Wait for it to actually go all the way in, then you can work on the train track. So we want to connect our main oil harbor here, and I'm not sure if we even have enough steel beams to make it over here, to our oil refineries right over on this side. Mostly because we only have the one factory over here working, and we've been using a lot of steel in order to get more weapons out, which probably in hindsight right now is not the best thing that we should be doing. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of these two, and we'll get some materials back. So what we're going to do is from here, we're just going to click and drag, and this is where your track is going to go, right here. So this is going straight through our industrial quarter, okay? It's a straight line. Pretty much can't go wrong with it, right? And what we'll do is we're going to extend it all the way to here and then attach it to our first oil refinery, like so. The next one is over back here. We're going to have to attach that one as well. We're going to go ahead over here and we're going to attach the rail like so. But now, one thing I need to mention to you, and this is what I'm going to deep dive in the next episode, you cannot rely on only one rail line to take these things to and from, okay? You're going to have multiple trains, they're going to be going in multiple directions, and that means you need to have parallel tracks. Parallel tracks essentially means you take this main rail and you create a secondary rail right next to it, like so. This means that when one train is coming, the other one is going. This way, you won't have any, what the game likes to call, parallel track issues, and you're capable of having your trains constantly run to and from your refineries, your power plants, all that stuff, very simply, without the game yelling at you. So we're going to also take this one, and we're going to attach it, like, right here. This is where we're going to have, like, a central hub for all of these trains right now. Eventually, we are going to have to get oil to the main city to power a power plant, because these guys, they're going to eventually want electricity as a basic need. They're not going to like you until they see it, right? So more than likely, with the power plant, you're going to have to play around with it a little bit. If you made a static settlement like this, you're going to have to change some of your blocks, really depending on how far in your engineers are or what your plans are with this entire island of yours. For us, we're just mostly focusing on upgrading these guys for the time being. So a power plant being placed like around here is probably not the worst thing in the world. And the way that you can tell how far it'll go, again, is based off of its radius with the actual streets. So right now, if we were to put it here, we would be able to get all of our engineer buildings for the most part. But it's kind of on the border, right? We don't really like that. You don't want to move a building like this. It just becomes a whole different can of worms, and I would not advise you do that at all. So what we'll do over here is we're going to move our 3 worker homes along the main road over here, and we're just going to blueprint this power plant and put it right here. And if you're going to click on it now, you'll see that eventually we'll be able to get almost every single one of our artisan homes, and later to be engineer homes, electrified. And that's perfect. That's what we want to see. More than likely, we might leave these ones in the front and work more in the back here, because we can guarantee that the electricity is going to hit these guys for sure. Right now, this is perfect. The next thing, because we always have to work on that little building block being reinforced concrete. The next thing that we also have here are the basic needs, and this is where we actually start a whole different chain and a different can of worms, is going to be spectacles. Spectacles are mildly infuriating. Why? Because you have to make brass. Okay, there later is a specialist that'll completely cut out brass requirement and change it just to wood. That is a legendary item, so it's going to take some time for you to actually reach that point. But what you essentially have to do here is you're going to need a zinc mine and a copper mine. The zinc mine and copper mine are what power a brass smeltery. On the flip side, this is very similar to the window makers, the sand mine to the glass makers, and glass makers, plus the brass smeltery, will make a spectacle factory. Spectacles, they are relatively fast once you actually get electricity to them, because now you're reaching a part of the game in which electricity is going to be very important. Everything that you have can pretty much be powered by electricity to work doubly as quick. So we have a massive industrial quarter over here. And later on, if we were to put a power plant in a very strategic location, like maybe, let's say, right over here, we'll be able to power up not only our industrial quarter right over here, but also our brick factories, our fur coat dealers, and a portion of the slaughterhouses and our soap factories. These can all change based off of, like, if you want to move these into here, makes it a little bit easier to just have one power plant power all of these. Because remember, you're going to be extracting oil to power those. And this is a very difficult chain to really wrap your head around. But for right now, what we need to do is we've been starting with the extraction of the cement over there. And what we need to do is we need to actually build one of these concrete factories. Now, the concrete factory itself is actually kind of cool, in my opinion. It does take a minute to process, so that means one quarry can have 2 of these things working at any given time. And these do require engineers. We have 530 of them. So we're going to go ahead and put 2 of them down in blueprints because we just do not have enough of our steel beams, right? In this particular situation, because we do have 2 of these, we can just sit and wait. You can do other things in the game while that works. But let me show you something that you can do at this time. As you can clearly see, we almost have like 1 million here, right? We have enough money to spend. You remember our good old friend Archie, the gas bag? He's got 150 steel beams we can possibly purchase from him. So let's just go ahead and do that. We're going to take our clipper over here. We're going to buy as many as we can, and we're going to bring it back to Roma and hopefully be able to get this whole thing going because it's really important. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and purchase all of those. I'm going to bring them back and give me like a hot second. Yeah, I think that's all it's going to take. Alrighty, so I went ahead and purchased Archie's entire load of... That just sounded awful to begin with, but I purchased all of his steel beams. There you go. That's what I should have said. Not his entire load of you know what. Now, more than likely, the guy is a connoisseur when it comes to manure. 100%. Manure, fertilizer, all that good stuff. So we now have the capability of building these 2 concrete factories, and we should definitely do that. These guys are going to start working. There should be plenty of steel to have that process continue on, if we're correct. Yes, it should actually be perfect with regards to that. Our iron is dipping a little bit, but that's okay. If you do have the docklands at this stage, then this dude is red for me today for some reason. I don't know why, but right now we've still been working on our fish right over here, and we've been purchasing a lot of workloads, okay? A lot, because we're trying to get this to actually build up the chain of specialty slots. But right now, I also want to turn your attention to the Kinsum mining operation right over here. If you do have the Docklands DLC, and I noticed one of you actually messaged me saying that you did purchase it per my recommendation, I appreciate you so much for doing so. You also can get access to all of the raw resources in here, but you will notice that for copper and zinc, what we're currently trying to find, we have to have at least 12 exports. Import, exports, what have you. You can flat out, completely disregard this chain and later on just import the brass. And that is capable of doing that. Importing around, what, 1,400 cement, which is right here. You'll be able to just flat out bring in the brass, and then you can completely cut out the brass smelteries in general. But we don't have the capability of doing that at the moment, and we have to actually work to get to that point. So we need to find another one of our islands, or if there's another island around here that has a zinc deposit. That's really important. And we do actually have one. We have one here in Messina. Messina is a perfect location for them. It has a zinc deposit and a copper deposit. We can definitely utilize this. And this is when I mentioned that having your other islands process certain materials is actually going to be to your benefit rather than your detriment. So a zinc deposit over here, right? So we're back here. Then we also have the copper, which is right over here. Perfect. But we got to figure out what's necessary for each. They require 25 miners in this particular situation, workers each. But they need materials in order to do so. And there's totally a fire that just literally sparked up over here while I said this. What we can do is, because we have 50 workforce now, and this happened while I was just, doing some prep work, what essentially happened here is we reached the expansionist trait of Conqueror, then that grants you plus 50 island workforce on each one of your islands. We can totally have a zinc and a copper mine be right over on this island. And if you really want to upgrade these guys over to workers, which you totally can, you can even have the brass smelteries here. All you have to do is just bring in the resources. And I would kind of like to do that eventually. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and put down a blueprint for the zinc deposit, and we're also going to put down a copper mine. The thing about it is, right, that if you don't have the materials to build these, the game will automatically put it into blueprint mode for you. So it'll still allow you to put down the thing, but it won't let you build it, obviously. The next thing here, what the heck? What, my ships are under attack. Where? I didn't even notice. Anyway, so the next thing that we have here are new large harbor options, okay? The large harbor options are very, very powerful, okay? This one being probably the most powerful mechanic in the game, and it's very simple to operate. Pretty much what a commuter pier is it allows you to utilize your workforce from one island to the other island. And you can put these on every single one of your islands, making your life so much easier. Essentially, if you want Roma to just be engineer plus, you can do that. Whilst at the same time, having Capua be, for example, artisan and below. Pretty much what that means is all of the artisan workforce is going to be brought in from Capua, and you can keep it like that to just manage your finances, manage your goods, and all that stuff a lot easier. And all the engineer plus can come in Roma. They're dispersed, pretty much. It allows you to not have to build every single one of the citizen tiers on every single island of yours. This is very, very important. So the way to actually build these things is you're going to need some reinforced concrete. So that's what we're waiting on primarily. But pretty much what it looks like is if you were to go over here, maybe I might have a free harbor slot to put this in somewhere. But we're probably going to have to move this at some point. Maybe I can stuff this thing like right over here. It has to be built on the shore itself. So we might, for all intents and purposes, put it back here. Yeah. So we can put this thing like right here. You're going to have to connect it with a road. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So that's going to be like so. We don't have enough for it. They do cost influence in order to build. So this is a point in the game which influence is going to start being a little bit more important. And we can even come over here. You do not have to be engineers on any of the islands. You just need to unlock it and have the items necessary to build it. So we can put one here on Messina, and we can also put one here on Capua. So we now, later on, will be able to share our workforce in between these islands very easily. Very, very easily. Also, do note that the traders have come up with a couple of additional goods. For example, Archie here now has some sewing machines and some bauxite. Bauxite is found and mined in the New World. It costs a lot of people in order to mine it, so this is not a bad alternative. Pocket watches are a luxury need. They are very lucrative to sell, and there's a little cheese strat that I will show you later on how to make this also another passive moneymaker. And then Eli over here has gold ore and some cement, so we can even purchase cement from him. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker, my friends. He can also sell us some zinc and some copper. If you don't want to wait for the brass smelters and you actually mining all of these, you can set a buy offer from him and he will bring it to your harbor area. We have plenty of money. We can definitely make this possible. So we're just going to go here and I'm going to buy as much as possible of zinc and of copper. Later on, I'm telling you straight up, man, getting all these resources becomes an absolute joke to you, okay? It becomes an absolute joke. It's so easy to do, and the Docklands, if you were to get it, makes life even easier. But for right now, the intro to this is pretty much getting the basics of understanding how the next core production chain material for building works. That electricity is going to become something that we're going to be focusing on probably in the next episode, if not the episode after that one. And then getting our spectacle factories going to get the initial good that they require. Because what these guys need are pretty much 4 of the basic stuff that the artisans require. So you're going to be getting at least a decent engineer workforce when you start. this is the stuff that you're going to need later on. So the spectacles, coffee is processed in the new world. Electricity is very simple once you get it going, because obviously it's going to just work passively for you. And then light bulbs going up. The last thing is, and I probably should have mentioned this early on, their luxury needs are a bit different. The penny farthings are used between steel, or they need to be built with steel and caoutchouc. Caoutchouc is a cash crop that you can get in the New World. You bring it over here, you can import it through the docklands. It essentially goes by very quickly, but it is a very lucrative sale option as well in the future. You have the pocket watches, which if you don't choose to make them, you can purchase them from Archie. We just went over 1 million. That's cool. Imagine if the channel actually had 1 million subscribers. One day that will happen. I guarantee you. One day this channel will make it over 1 million subscribers, and that will be an incredible, incredible time. I will do so much for you all. It is unbelievable, because that is just how appreciative a person I am. All of you giving me the opportunity, watching me, talking to me, all that good stuff. That day, I will legitimately have to reserve a hospital bed, because I'm going to be passed the hell out, man. Next one being the bank, and last one, actually. The bank is just a solitary building. It's very similar to the university, but it is a lot larger. Actually looks pretty cool. It's one of my favorite just random buildings in this game. So, we also have some grayed out areas that we have to work towards getting, and that being the advanced weapons. Advanced weapons are used to create battleships, monitors, flamethrower ships, flak gun emplacement ships, and then better harbor defenses, which I have not spoken about harbor defenses. I probably should do that. What I probably will do is get all of those wrapped in one little basket and give it to you, because that makes it a little bit easier. We have the penny farthings over here. Steam motors. Steam motors are used to make tractors. They are also used for ships. And it is probably one of the most important of the production chains, because later on it also works towards taxis. And then we also have our fuel right over here. So this is just a basic intro to what these guys are, what their plans are, how you're supposed to navigate around them. And ultimately, they are an easier chain to manage, because now you already know that you're going to have to go to another region to get what they need, okay? So, until next time, my friends, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you learned something. Engineers look a little bit daunting, but I can promise you I will teach you everything you need to know on how to navigate with these guys. Very, very simple. Until next time, thank you all so very much for being here. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell button, share it with your friends. We're going through a mountain. I can't ever do like an intro or outro worth a damn. I don't know. That's just my curse. I just feel like every time either this game hates me or what, but like even my Docklands dude is red, so I don't know. I'm putting my hands up. You can't see it. My hands are up to the sky right now. Anyway, thank you all so very much, and I will catch you on the next episode, my Rantians.